II came to power in 1451, his singular goal was to take the Byzantine capital. Constantinople was not the city it once was. The total number of the population was now between 50 and 100,000, and vast swathes of land within the walls were empty and even used for farming. The Byzantine Emperor Constantine XI now controlled only a small territory along the coast and had to pay tribute to the Ottoman Sultan. Mehmed signed treaties with Venice, Genoa and Hungary to ensure that they were not going to attack him. A new rebellion by the Karamanids allowed him to cross into Anatolia and consolidate his power in the region. Constantine XI was hoping to end the practice of paying tribute to the Sultan and threatened to support Mehmed's cousin Orhan in claiming the Ottoman throne. That gave Mehmed a reason to declare their previous treaty null and void. The Ottomans started preparing for war. In April of 1452, the Sultan gave orders to build a fortress called Rumelihizar on the northern end of the Bosphorus to prevent any ships from assisting Constantinople from the Black Sea. The fort was built by the end of August, and Constantine had no other choice but to start bringing his subjects into the city, storing up supplies, and sending pleas for help to the European states. Only a contingent of Venetian ships and around 1,000 mercenary soldiers led by Giovanni Giustiniani arrived to help, while most Christian monarchs ignored the pleas. The Ottomans had more than 100,000 warriors, 69 cannons and 126 ships under the overall command of Mehmed II, against 7,000 professional Byzantine troops, among them 500 Ottomans of Prince Orhan, and a dozen or so cannons and 26 ships. More than 30,000 locals were pressed into service. The Byzantine and Italian ships were better than their counterparts, while their guns were outdated. One of the Ottoman guns was particularly big and would play an iconic role in the upcoming siege. Each section of the wall would be commanded by one of the Italian commanders, with Giustiniani being the leader, while Constantine and his guard were in reserve in the Blacane Palace. The defenders repaired the walls, and a chain was set across the Golden Horn to prevent the Ottomans from attacking the walls from the sea. The vanguard of the Ottoman army arrived at the walls of Constantinople on April 1st, 1453, and began making camp the next day. The Sultan reached the city on the 5th of April and started preparing to besiege it. The giant Ottoman cannons were in place on the 6th and started blasting the Theodosian walls, but with little effect. The cannons were so massive they needed 3 hours to reload, and the Byzantines were able to repair the damage done to the walls. On the 7th, the Sultan ordered his light infantry and skirmishers to assault the walls, but the defenders easily repelled the Ottomans. Unfortunately for them, their biggest cannons were lost in the accident, and their smaller ones were not capable of doing much damage. The Byzantines attempted a few sallies on the 8th and 9th, but no positive results were achieved. The Ottomans started battering the city walls on the 11th, and this bombardment continued until the very end of the siege. On the 17th and the 18th, the Ottomans attempted night assaults, but the defenders held on. On the water, the Ottoman fleet was unable to penetrate the chain and move into the Golden Horn. On the contrary, a few Venetian ships arrived and joined the defenders on the 20th of April. The Sultan needed to employ a new strategy. He famously ordered his ships to be moved across land near the Genoese colony of Pera. The ships were then set to water in the Golden Horn behind the chain on April 28th. Constantine sent his fire ships to quickly get rid of this threat, but the defenders lost this battle. From now on, Constantine had to keep at least part of his troops on the northern wall, and that weakened his defences elsewhere. Some of the Byzantine cannons were moved into the area, but they failed to defend the Allied ships, which had to return to the harbours. Their crews joined the defence. On May 6th, Ottoman cannons managed to destroy the gates of St. Romanus, and during the night their forces almost breached the defences in the area, but Justiniani arrived and fended off the attackers. On the 11th, the Caligaria gate was damaged, and the Ottomans moved in towards the Blachernae palace, but the emperor was able to push them back. The Ottoman Sultan commanded an all-out assault on the 29th. A massive bombardment was followed by a light infantry assault, but despite numerical advantage, they failed to take the walls from Justiniani. Mehmed's artillery destroyed part of the gates near the gates of St. Romanus, and 3,000 janissaries were sent to attack this position. The Byzantines were able to defend once again, but the janissaries took one of the towers and planted the Ottoman flag. At this point, Justiniani was heavily wounded and carried away from the battlements. This was a massive blow to the morale of the defenders, and when a few hundred janissaries entered the city near the gates of St. Romanus, the Byzantine defences fell. Citizens and defenders attempted to board the ships and leave the city. Sources say that the emperor and his last guards attempted a desperate counterattack near the gates of St. Romanus, but he was killed. Thus, the last Roman emperor died alongside his empire. The fall of Constantinople was the event that marked the end of the medieval era, sparked the next phase of the Renaissance, started the ages of discovery and colonization, and also centuries of wars between the European powers and the Ottoman Empire. The wars that we are planning to cover in the future.